Good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to see whoever is able to come here. This is the September meeting of the Finance Committee. And according to our bylaws, although we have a legal opinion from Rod Tennyson that goes way back, that it doesn't have to happen, but we're ready. And a email went out. We had a link to the preliminary budget. And I think that's the first time that we were able to present a budget before any meeting. I know that that worked because we had roughly 180 emails that were open, and we had roughly only 40 people who exercised the ability to see the budget, this preliminary budget, which I think that was the first time that's been able to happen. In addition, every officer saw the preliminary budget before this. Excuse me?
I didn't see it.
You didn't?
No, I didn't
I'm
receive
sorry.
I didn't get one either.
You didn't get it? I thought it was forwarded to everybody. I'm sorry. Well, this meeting, what we have here is the preliminary budget. Because every budget, according to our bylaws, is preliminary until it's accepted by the delegate assembly. However,
Can I get a copy of that?
Okay.
guys, sorry.
Hey, Ed, may I suggest that before we move forward with the meeting, we establish a quorum? Or not?
We have nobody that's not doing.
No, I'm on here, no.
I got the rest.
Shall I ask the secretary to
Have
do?
Joanne call the roll.
need?
Here, Joanne, you want this back?
What do we got? No, you can have it. I have no copy. You want one of those?
We'll go ahead and call the roll. Paulette Burdick is not here. Cookie Courier is absent. Phil DePaul is not here. Richard Handelsman is present, yes?
Yeah, he's here.
John Malloy,
Yeah, just came in.
Americo is not here.
No,
David Singer.
Not here.
Not signed in. And no one is on the Zoom still.
Nobody on Zoom.
No. Oh, sorry.
I got somebody.
Wait, somebody's here.
Hi, can you identify yourself?
Excuse me?
She doesn't hear you.
Someone just chipped in.
Hi, somebody just logged into the Zoom meeting.
Maybe we should wait a minute or two. We may
I
be
can't see
slow.
who it- I can't see who it is.
And it does not appear to be a committee member I recognize.
No.
And now they're off.
And that are,
They're all,
yes, and it didn't appear to be a committee member.
you didn't have to.
you were David.
My-
No, that's
Okay,
yeah.
so David Singer is
Not
not
here.
here or on Zoom.
Right.
David is on?
No,
No.
and Michael Zazoff.
Present.
Okay. David Israel is absent. Ed Grossman,
He's here.
Dom Granaggio is absent.
Yep.
Stuart is not
not
here.
here.
He said he.
Fausto,
I'm
you're
here.
here.
Hmm.
Patricia's absent.
Yes.
David Boaz.
Yeah.
And I'm here. So we do not have a quorum.
Ed, you don't have a quorum for a meeting today.
Well, I think we should move forward, although we're supposed to, the finance meeting is supposed to present the budget to the office. However, I have a written opinion from Rod Tennyson that it doesn't have to be. I think we have enough people here to make some comments, and then we'll have to quickly call another finance meeting. And why people didn't sign on, I was gonna make a comment that 170 some odd people opened the email, and also that roughly 40 people opened the proposed budget. In as much as we don't have a quorum, I don't think we could present tomorrow the proposed budget to the officers meeting. And that is not only the first time. However, since we're here, I welcome anybody to have questions. I have a bunch of questions, but I really want to not have it at a meeting where we can't have a vote. I could make a call right now. How many are we short?
At least two, right? Two?
Two?
One?
One? Well, give me 1 minute.
Either quorum or there's no.
You did, yeah, you either have a quorum or you don't have a quorum.
You don't have a
Well,
quorum.
It's 6 minutes after 1. Sometimes we started late. Let me see if I can get somebody. I'm surprised because Paulette got a link directly from Joanne.
I send it to everybody.
David Singer today.
Yeah, you all got it.
Oh, yeah.
Call David Singer.
But maybe I'm wrong, there's 8 people listed on the committee. So we need 5,
That's what I just said. You got
Yeah,
four.
David.
so
have
we
you-
we have.
He's a
Three.
voting member.
Hmm?
This is the one committee where
Let's
the
let,
chair,
Remember?
let's let
the chair
Ed
is a member for.
do his thing, guys.
So you're not able to get them.
Even know who that is.
Exactly.
No, I'm
All right.
It's the budget.
Okay, well, can you stay on the phone?
I don't know who that is.
Americo.
All right, hold it because no one can hear you.
Americo is on.
Americo is on.
All right,
Americo, can you hear
you
us?
can dispense with Mr. Singh.
Okay, Americo.
David,
Never mind.
call David Singer.
You need David Singapore, you got America.
Is Americo signed on or not?
Yeah,
Yeah,
He
he's
is.
I see him.
on Zoom. He's on
Okay.
Zoom.
Call David Singer. Someone tried to get on and they got knocked off.
No,
No.
Americo is.
Americo is on, so you have a quorum now.
Quorum
You
now.
have a quorum.
Let's
What?
go.
You have a quorum now.
We do have a
Americo
quorum.
signed
Americo
on.
is on.
Let's-
Who?
Americo.
Oh, good.
Hearing is on.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's better.
It's not bad.
All right. Having said that, Joanne, would you read the minutes from the last meeting?
Why don't we just hand out a copy of the minutes?
Finance Committee meeting, August 23rd, 2023 minutes. The meeting was called to order by Chairperson Ed Grossman at 1 p.m. Only 4 of the 9 committee members were present. Since a quorum was not established, no business could be conducted by the meeting. Members present were Ed Grossman, Richard Handelsman, Michael Zaslow, John Malloy. Members absent were David Singer, Americo Mancuso, Paulette Burdick, Phil DePaul, and Cookie Courier. Various topics were discussed as the purchase of, such as the purchase of CDs, the 2024 budget process, and the South Canal Drainage Agreement. Meeting was adjourned at 2 p.m. Respectfully submitted by Joanne Robinson, recording secretary.
Everybody hear the minutes?
Yep.
Okay, good.
I have you on them. Come on.
Oh, you're back on. That's good. Let me take this out so maybe you can hear. David Singer is here, but he's going directly to my ear. Can you hear now, David? We're reading it. All right. The fact that we have it, does anybody want to look at it before we vote on it?
I had, Ed, last week I sent you an email regarding some things that I wanted included in the packet. I never got a response.
Who did you send it to?
Sent it to you. I sent it to treasurer too, and I sent it to Donald. Here, pass this down.
Could you pass? I haven't seen.
Well, I sent it to you,
Okay.
and I have some questions on what you have in front of you.
Okay, hold on.
Could someone make a motion?
About the minutes.
Budget and then be in, have it seconded and then you're in discussion.
About the minutes, didn't we ask for a specific specificity about the CDs? What tank, how much?
No business.
No,
could be
we couldn't,
conducted.
we
had-
made a suggestion on a business presentation,
Right.
but no business could be conducted because you didn't have a quorum.
No decisions.
There
were
was
made.
general
So-
discussion of
That's
certain
it,
topics.
just general
period.
discussion. That's it.
Hold on one second, I'm reading it.
Right.
Okay, I read it. I don't remember seeing it, which doesn't mean you didn't send it. However, like to make a comment to start this, that adding 3 million to the reserves,
Road reserves.
Hmm?
The road reserves. Says road reserves. I'm just,
let's clear this up once and for all. Our reserves are pooled, not budgeted. Now, when you say $3 million, my question is, do we have a new engineering study that says that's called for? I know that I've been talking to Donald Adam Dryden, and with his patch, we even talked about painting them different colors so you could play Potsy. However, to add a significant number like that, I think it would have to be documented by a study which includes core samples. I don't know of such study yet. I haven't seen it.
core sample study was done.
What?
22 holes were drilled.
I can't hear.
22 holes were drilled.
22 what?
Holes.
22 core samples were taken,
Taken.
When?
2018.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay, that
Okay,
was done by federal,
The company that did it was Federal
Right.
Engineering.
right?
and
That's 4 or 5 years ago.
well, also, the other question I have, when I look at this, I believe last year and the year before, we had a 5-year lifespan left on the road. And somehow now we have 8 years left. How did the road become newer?
Okay, that's a good question. If you go back over prior budgets, the useful life has changed many times. Why? Because things change. As far as doing the roads, if you recall, I kept prompting our CAM, Donald Foster, why don't we start on the roads, we're earning zip, and everything goes up, that goes up. But just to say we did a 5-year-old study, that's like a 5-year-old newspaper. So I would say, I don't see that as being done at this point. We have some time before the end of the year to amend the budget, but I don't think I would recommend it just because we had a 5-year-old study. I think we need a study. And in actual fact, last year, I requested to have a study. It was not approved by Simmons and White. So I think to say now we're gonna jump up $3 million. I haven't heard anything from Donald on this. I mean, so I think if Donald has a report, it should be written and presented to us. And if necessary, we'll have another meeting before the end of the year. But to go up 3 million, I would like to adjust the budget. I keep hearing it's allocated. And that is not true. It's not true. What are we making believe? We're not making believe. This is a pool reserve, and if we want to change it, that should be a recommendation. And we have Mr. Richard here who could expedite changing the bylaw.
Hey, can I go back to, I know we're talking hypothetical. When we had another CPA and he did the reason why I'm saying to put $3 million in there is very simple. 5 years ago, to redo the roads, we got an estimate of $15 million. Okay, and at that time, the roads had a 4 to 5 year lifespan. 5 years later, we have 8 years. You have $8 million put away. And if 5 years ago, when oil was $35, $40 a gallon, not 80, it was 15 millions to do all the road. How do you now, 5 years later, say it's only gonna cost $12 million?
Well, I can only say what's true. Before you when you say 5 years ago, if you saw my email, 5 years ago, out from 6 years ago to this year, our budget went up $2 million. At that time, you had a very small reserve. Part of this whole story, which I keep bringing up, is that on the last monthly meeting report, which I gave, you'll notice that 42% of our current expense is cable.
But what does that have to do with the roads, Ed? Ed, we're talking about the money to be able to do the roads.
Here is the answer.
Yeah.
The answer is that we need a professional study. 5 years ago is like a 5-year-old newspaper. How did this happen? Well, if you recall, 2 years ago, the reserve was put down. I think we have to first recognize that this is a pooled reserve.
I understand that.
Do we have an estimate now?
Again, I'm going back what we have now. 5 years ago, we were told we were putting away $1 million a year to redo the roads. 5 years later, we have $8 million. We haven't put any money away for the last 4 years. That's where I'm saying we have to make up for that $1 million. You don't want to put away 3 million, put away 2 million. So you have to put that money in there. The roads are going to need to be done.
Fausto,
Yes.
what was the total in reserves 5 years ago?
What was the total in reserves? It was under $2-3 million. That's
How
why
much is in the reserves now?
8 million.
11 point.
No,
Yes.
$8 million. That's what you have put in for your road. Those are your numbers.
Wait, we're going around in a circle, Fausto. I don't care if it was put in to T-Dots. It is a pooled reserve and you have 11+ million in it right now.
Okay.
So don't give me what was 5 years ago. I think
that's not
it's
the point.
invalid. It's not the way you do things. Just pick it from the sky. That's your opinion, but I'm saying that's wrong. That's why we're having a meeting like this. That's a hard suggestion. And as you would say to me, show me. You don't show me nothing except something that was 5 years ago, and you don't recognize there was much smaller reserves. Now, Mr. Forster, who's sitting here very quietly, has been asked every year, what do you think? What do you think? Okay.
Want me to repeat,
Now-
want me to repeat what I say every time I'm asked what I think?
Yes.
Is it the time to do it now?
This is what I could tell you, being in charge of maintenance. Every year we spend a bit more on repairs.
Right.
At some point, you're going to be spending a greater amount of money, and then a greater amount of money. At some point, it'll be a business decision for the bodies to decide, is this it? Do we want to stop repairing these roads and start over?
When did it happen, Donald,
When did what happen then?
that you made that decision? I spoke to you.
No, notice
What do
it,
you-
Ed,
No decision.
why don't you let me finish, okay? Every time you ask this question, meetings are outside. I can tell you what we spend every year on repairs. And I
Right,
can tell you that number goes up incrementally, little each time. We'll do a little more each year. We just finished in front of your house. At some point, you, starting with this finance committee and probably the infrastructure committee, will have to make a judgment call. How much, at what point do you want to say enough? Let's just redo the roads. My opinion is that you can go quite a bit longer. I could patch from now till the end of time. They're good patches and they'll last longer than the road themselves. All right? The road in front of my house in Queens was patched for 30 years before the city finally got around to do it. But I could give you the conditions of the roads roughly. I could tell you what we're spending on them. But when you want to get to the point you redo the roads, it's a business decision. That's for you guys to make. I can help, I can make recommendations, I can advise. Most importantly, I can tell you what you're spending.
okay. We've been spending, and yes, I'm not disagreeing. What I'm saying is you just don't make that kind of adjustment without having an engineer's report.
I agree, 100%.
So I think this is not the time to change it. What I'm saying is if that's a hard feeling, this is only what, September, October, November, December?
Mhm.
In between, we should get an engineer's report and have a recommendation from the engineer and also get some bids. We can make those changes.
Bids on what, Ed?
The bid on redoing the roads.
Okay, Ed, first things first. You're talking about an engineering study,
Right,
fine. That's not a decision I make, that's a decision I implement. So your the roads are infrastructure. Your next stop, your first would be a decision here, whether you want to move forward with an engineering study. Your next stop would be your counterparts in the bids infrastructure committee, whether to move forward with an engineering study. Then it moves up to the officers and goes up the line.
I think that's a good point. That's what I'm saying. So if we have right now a quorum, I'd like to, or someone else could make, oh, excuse me.
That's what I've been,
Sorry, I can't talk.
I would make a motion that we're at an impasse without the exact numbers. I make a motion that we recommend an engineering study.
Second the motion.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
When,
No,
John
hold on.
did.
We have, it's open for discussion again, is that
Yep.
correct?
yeah, so
Yeah, you're in discussion.
the last engineering study, if I showed two or 3 roads that there was no substructure.
The
They
one
laid
that's always.
sand and dirt and they put blacktop on. That's what the core samples, and I don't remember if it was 3 or 4 spots, that's why we have, the road keeps sinking.
Let's get the
Okay.
engineering.
Well, we are going back and chewing the cud.
Get the,
Okay, federal did the core samples, if I remember.
Mhm.
And they only did it in a certain area. What's on the floor right now is a
They have-
motion
hold-
which is seconded.
Hold on, Ed. What federal engineering did, using standard procedures for engineers, is to do core samples at representative sections of the village, so that you get a cross-section of the whole village.
I agree, Donald, but we have on the floor now a motion which was seconded to get an engineering study.
All right.
So I would like to call for a vote.
Mr. Chairman. Mr.
Hold
Chairman, is the Finance Committee responsible for deciding whether or not a infrastructure on roads is applicable? I thought the Finance Committee was only for purposes of deciding funds. Is there an infrastructure committee?
I think
There
you're
is.
missing the boat here because the finance committee works on the budget. And part of the budget is the reserves.
And let me answer Americo. Americo, I would tend to agree with Ed on this. I think this is something that 2 advisory committees, finance and infrastructure, should work together. It just stands to reason.
Yeah.
So it could start in infrastructure, or it could start here, but you guys should work together on this. Does everyone agree?
Well, you gotta know how much money to put in the budget.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually,
So that's
why-
what we're here for. Anybody else? Yes, Michael.
Ed, can I make a comment? Ed,
Yes,
yeah,
Is that-
this is David. Is there any merit in doing this project if it gets approved in 4 increments, so you don't spend the money all at once? Is there any merit in that idea?
well, what we've been doing, if I'm not mistaken, is we've been extending the life of the roads by Donald's
Recommendation.
program of I'll patch it and I could patch it forever. As far as redoing the roads, you're talking to the choir when you talk to me. However, I mean, I've recommended this for the last 3 years. I said, we're not getting any money on our money, let's use it. But let's not go astray. Right now, on the floor is a motion to hire an engineer to do a study, give us the study, work with the bid committee, and part of the study would have to be what their feeling is. Do we have to do it today? Do we have to do it in 3 years? And if we do it, how do we do it? Last time, we only put a topical coat on. One of the questions is, do you want to go down to the base and do it all over? Then you're talking a
let
different
me,
amount of
Ed,
money.
let me specify from what you just said, a topical base. The last job, which was all of Century Village, was a mill and repave. It wasn't a topical, what you're describing is seal coating, and that's not.
No, I'm not talking about silk cutting because.
Also, I wanna be clear with this committee and also with the bid committee that this is an advisory committee. And this committee will decide to make a recommendation to the officers committee. The decision to move forward with an engineering report, an engineering study will be made by the officers.
Donald, I know what the difference is because I seal coated long driveways for a long time.
Okay, seal
But we're talking about, and maybe I didn't describe it in a technical way,
Mhm.
is we didn't go down to the base and redo it.
correct.
Okay, so what, it could be a zillion different dollars.
And I just want to answer Mr. Singer. Mr. Singer, to your question, dividing the area, the community into quadrants, and doing a quadrant was one of the options that we've discussed over the years.
So I thank you very much, but again, I agree that you probably need a professional engineering report to know where we're up to, what's going on, what has to be done. You definitely need an engineer's report.
Well, I think we have on the table that motion to recommend to get in there.
Mike,
Mike,
What is the estimated cost to produce that engineering report?
it all depends. I know what we paid last
What did
time.
we pay the last time, Ed?
The review was 6,000, if I remember.
That was from federal.
No, that was from White.
I think it was more than,
Yes, that
money,
was,
if I remember.
they did the engineering and then they came back and they did a review of their own work. And in addition, you had federal do the core samples.
Michael, just to give you an idea, the engineering study that's being done currently by Simmons and White for the South Canal is $20,000. So it's
Well-
gonna be in there,
If we do and agree to an engineering study, it's my opinion that that doesn't come out of operations, that comes out of the reserves. And that's because, again, we have a pooled reserve and it's in that particular area. So to just do it is not the right way. And I appreciate Fausto's anxiety, but like everything else, things change.
No, not really.
I see you anxious.
If I was anxious, you'd know it.
Excuse me. Hold it.
all I want is to have this committee recommend to B&A that we look into the engineering study. I don't have the expertise when you start talking about sealant versus base. I think bids and acquisitions, especially Mr. Granaglia, would pick up on our recommendation and
And-
B&A would.
And Richard, you're a member of both committees, if I remember correctly.
I
right?
am, but I don't, this committee, I don't think has the expertise or the purview to specify exactly what
No, we
the.
would.
I know, so all I want is to vote and make a recommendation to B&A that they specify what the study will do.
Well, I think we have that, and Donald could write an RFP.
Actually, this one, Ed, I think that this particular RFP would be a bit above my pay grade.
Excuse me?
This particular RFP would be a bit above my pay grade. I would seek consultation on this.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
good. Can we vote?
I just have a question. You're talking about repaving. How far out do you think this is gonna, 2 years, 3 years? Because we're getting ceilings in our unit, it's costing us
I know.
$8,000.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna do repaving for 3 or 4 years, it really even, plus the clubhouse is already finished, or I don't know if it's complete, but that's it.
Mr. Romano, you want me to give you what I think? I don't think you should hold off on your project. I think. you
No,
should-
no, we're doing it this
Yeah.
way.
This is more of a long-term study to see, we need to know when, and I don't think 3 years is, I think you're farther out than that. That's just my gut.
Just asking, that wasn't true.
I mean, you and I are from the same place. How long does the city patch a road before they finally get to mill?
40 years.
Exactly.
Anybody else have any comments? I call, Joanne, would you call the vote? Do you want to read over the,
Okay, a motion was made by Richard Handelsman and seconded by John Malloy to recommend that an engineering study be conducted to determine when the roads should be replaced and what the costs are.
I like that.
is that clear enough to hire an engineer?
Should
Life expectancy.
that again?
To recommend
should.
To recommend that an engineering study be conducted to determine when the roads should be replaced and what the costs are.
I think that's very good. David, I don't think we can do 1 second. I think when we do that, Donald's made a statement which we can verify in short order. It's go over the last 10 years and accumulate how much we pay for repair.
For repairs. And the last few years should be pretty easy because it's pretty much one vendor and one other vendor. So that's easy.
Richard, do you want to continue with this or do you want to hold it until you get more information?
Why don't you make it
I
more,
would
make it easy.
just say a recommendation to the, if I am correct, a recommendation to the B&A committee. Rather than just a recommendation.
I agree.
To whom does it go? After we get this. After we,
I think it goes to everybody.
yeah,
David, you raised your hand.
No, he corrected it, could we?
I just want, yeah, I'm sorry, I wanted to know how many years ago were the roads repaved? I'm just curious.
2009, 8,
What, the original one?
the last time we milled and paved.
Before 2000, it started in 2009 and I think we finished up in 2012.
No, we were done way before that. We were done in
1 year.
1 year. We were done in 1 year.
Well, not,
Mr. Singer, just for a piece of history, the original plan in 2007-8 was to do one half of the village at a time. Then when the first half was in play, and this is before I worked here, but I had just purchased my unit. The board thought it might be smart because they were looking at the price of asphalt and tracking the price of oil. They thought that might be smart to jump on the other side, and they went ahead and did the other section without even stopping. It also saved them from a mobilization charge. So we wound up doing the whole village in really under a year, right?
At once.
further
Once.
to. I'm sorry, David, but just further.
So
to
what,
that,
I'm sorry, what year was it again? I'm sorry. what year was it?
2008. I would say 2009 we were done, right?
Done.
I would say that one of the reasons, and Donald got into it, was we were misled. And I had the record at that time that it would cost $500,000 or $1 million to remobilize, and that was absolutely wrong. So, but besides all that, I think the main thrust right now is to move ahead and have a vote so that we can move what I think is very prudent, having an engineering study. So
Yes.
I'd like to call the vote. Joanne?
Okay, I'm just redoing this. The motion, as Richard has restated it, is to recommend that bids and infrastructure request an engineering report to be conducted to determine when the roads should be replaced and what the costs are.
How about adding if the roads should be placed? How about adding if?
I don't think it's an if, truthfully. There is no question that roads occasionally have to be replaced. I think we're getting into
Right.
semantics.
Okay,
You read that, you put in an infrastructure request. I don't understand that. It's a request.
Richard, restate your, for the,
I'm
please,
sorry.
please
Well,
restate
it just
your,
happens here at
Let's
the
let Richard
finance.
restate his motion. Hit it.
uh-oh.
It's your motion.
That we recommend that the finance committee recommend to B&A committee to put out bids for an engineering study on the state of on the repair of the road.
Can I make it a little easier
I
for you? Do you mind if I help you?
God,
I think
Okay.
that's,
All the help.
Guys, let me do my job, all right?
that's wrong.
Richard, for one thing, professional services are not typically subject to bidding requirements. So why don't we just say this? Recommendation by the finance committee to the infrastructure committee to explore the possibility of having a engineering study.
Okay,
Does that sound right to
On the
everybody?
road, yeah.
I think
But I think you guys are never gonna
we
agree.
can
You're
go
just
around
adding
in
things.
circles. It's not for the infrastructure. It's for everybody. This is gonna go to the officers meeting.
Eventually, absolutely.
Why don't we just say simply that the finance committee requests the engagement of an engineer to study the conditions of the roads.
All right,
Only,
All right, what he said,
what he said. What he said.
I'm not gonna repeat it.
Well,
I screwed up.
Okay, sorry. I
Okay,
just like a specific next.
very
step.
simple.
Richard Handelsman, how do you vote on what was just proposed?
Yes,
John Malloy,
Yes.
David Singer,
yes,
Michael Zaslow,
Yes.
okay. Ed Grossman,
Yes,
Fabro, Fausto Fabro,
I think the committee should vote on, but yes.
David Boaz.
So confused, but I'll still vote yes.
Thank
I
you.
don't want to buck the system. I'm voting yes. Unanimously approved to do whatever it was he just said.
All right, guys, let me,
I'm on the board of the finance.
let me just jump in a bit. All right, so what's, your question, Richard, was what's the next step? I'm gonna recommend that you, being a member of, hang on one second, because someone else is talking. All right, I'm gonna recommend, since you're a member of the, infrastructure committee, bids infrastructure, that you contact the chair and get it on the agenda of their next meeting.
okay.
All right, this way, when it comes time to bring it to the officers, say it's a joint decision of the two committees that
All right,
just makes sense to me. One is money and one is stuff, right?
yeah, all right.
You like that idea?
No, but they go together. I'm an accountant too. so-
All right, good.
Yeah, that goes together.
All right.
The money and the.
I
stuff
like hearing
always go
nods. I
together.
see. All right, that's your homework, so I don't have to do it. All right,
Yeah, give me Dominique's phone number when you get it.
I'll make it, I'll make it.
we got that out of the way and it was important. I'm looking back now. A line for lawyers, which were removed this year's budget. If I recall, we had $175,000 left. That was in
Do me a favor,
reserve.
Ed, speak up a little bit, because I see Mr. Singer can't hear.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at Mr.
Thank you.
Fausto's. We also need a line for a lawyer, which was removed in this year's budget. If I recall, we had $175,000 left in that line.
What page, Ed?
What line?
No, that was in the email that I sent to him that I wanted to be included in the budget.
Okay.
Wait a second. We're going back and forth without the quorum. The $175,000 left was in the reserve. Not in the expense, it was in the reserve.
Ed, it was the money that was used to fight WPRF.
What does
The
that have
question,
to do with the?
That $175,000 should be put back for other challenges that might come available.
We're going around in a circle, Fausto.
Okay,
This is a pooled reserve.
okay.
Okay, so you don't put it back in, it is in.
No, it's not.
No, yes, it doesn't get allocated.
We're talking about, are we
We are
talking
going
about,
around in a ridiculous
are we
fashion.
talking about the draft reserve schedule?
Yes, it's in the
All right, Fausto, are you suggesting that we put a legal line in the draft reserve?
Exactly. That, whatever's in there is pertains to Tennyson and whatever we have. There's nothing else other than that.
All right, so what would be the reason to have that draft, to have
Well,
that reserve line?
in case we have another issue that we need to contest with WPRF. We had put away to fight the Millennium Agreement. We had 450,000 or somewhat in there. And 100, I believe the number was close to 175,000 was left. And in the 23 budget, it was put back in, and I'm saying we should have that line item available for future.
All right,
I don't want to increase it. I would like that line available.
You know, I have to interrupt.
Let me be the devil.
No, excuse me.
Go ahead.
This is apples and oranges. Nothing changed. We gotta recommend, if you don't wanna have a pooled budget, change it. The money didn't go anywhere. It was moved around. And the whole thing, when you get this allocation, is strictly mirrors. Mirrors. I think the thing to do is I will send out a memo with the official explanation of what a pooled reserve is and what is a dedicated reserve. You can't make believe it's here. It's here.
It's not.
And all we're doing is spinning wheels. If you had a case, we had that in for a specific case.
And I'm saying, to put it back, Ed, it was a separate line item that you decided to remove this year because you said we didn't need it. And I'm saying it should be there. I'm not questioning the pool. Why did we have a separate line for 5 years?
Well, because we were,
Because the Millennium
that's
Agreement was coming up.
BMT.
Because exactly, that's the point.
Let's talk, BMT is before my time. I disagree. That is strictly a memo. Okay, the money didn't leave the reserve.
I didn't say
It was just allocated differently for expeditious purposes. If we needed $11 million tomorrow and it was not in the reserve, what would you do? You take it out of the reserves because it's a pooled reserve.
I get that.
Well, I even had a discussion with Chris, that you can't play games. You can't play games. It's either a pooled reserve or it's not a pooled reserve. The money never left.
All right,
the money is there.
Richard, let me go for it. All right, so draft reserve schedule is supposed to be for anticipated expenses in the future.
Right.
We have a pooled reserve, and I agree with you, Ed. But we do have lines in the reserve, whether we can.
or.
Can we switch?
Wait, hang on one second, because I want to get to my question. Pastor, my question for you is, do you anticipate that we're going to be pursuing anything with WPRF in the
I
near future?
think yes.
That's the answer. So that the question you should be asking is, why do you want it? in? And that's his answer.
Well, the original Millennium Agreement was 20 years. They've cut it back to 10.
Right.
So that means that they're planning 5-6 years down the road to do something a little different. Okay, and I think we should anticipate that. I think we should be aware of it.
We are.
We have spent $5 million on an air conditioning system that doesn't work, and we just got hit up with a $550,000 to do the roof. That wasn't anticipated, it wasn't due last year, and there's certain one of these things that we should be able to have a special fund in case we need to go head to toe with WPRF. That's my opinion.
So what you're really suggesting is we remove the $175 from a line item that was given to it. So just take that back out and the reserve total will stay the same, but you'll have a line item. The question gets back to, is this pooled or is this not?
Again,
And I think what's happening.
I apologize to the committee. Just drop it, Ed. Forget it. Let's move on. Richard's got his hand up.
When you say pool, does that mean, for example, you have 100,000 in fencing? If we need to, can we just take that 100,000 and use it for something else, or is it specified?
Of course.
It's pooled reserve.
Okay,
It's a pooled reserve.
all right, so
I think, I'm gonna interrupt, which I do sometimes. I'm going to send everybody on the committee a explanation accepted of what a pooled reserve is and what a dedicated reserve is. And then at the next meeting, if you want to change it, that would be a motion to our learned Dr. Richard to put it in his ballywick and propose to make a change to the bylaw, saying it's no longer a pooled reserve, it's a dedicated reserve. I recall where we had not only a dedicated reserve, we had fences, one bank account, roads, another bank account, holidays, another bank account, and then treasurer took it all out and left us with $35,000.
Here we go.
Didn't get a vote, just did it, and we wound up starting with zero. So let's clear it up. It's either pooled or not. And I know David Israel says, well, we'll do it this way. Very smart guy, been here a long time. I don't see him as a chartered accountant. I don't see him as a certified accountant, and I don't see him as a lawyer. Pooled reserves are absolutely defined.
Again, I apologize to the committee.
Let's move on.
Let's
Uh,
accomplish nothing.
Okay,
I had not started.
hold on. You brought up an interesting thing here. More money needs to be added to the security contract and the transportation contract if they go out and bid and we need more money. Okay,
Guys, page 1, 4100.6, 4100.8.
let's
Page 1.
Got it.
Let's review what just happened in the last 2 years. We increased the security contract without anything changed in the reserves. They came to us and we said, okay,
Would anyone like a cold drink?
No, thank you.
hold on.
I'll take a scotch on the rocks.
If you're coming back, did you bring your water down?
Yeah. I was salt pressed.
I think it's easy to add. And the reason I put in my email is I found it very interesting that Yuko's budget went up $2 million when the total budget was $2 million less than today. These are items
Because we
that
added a reserve.
I focus on because that's not a necessity. That's. Are we going to bid out? I heard that we were going to look for 2 new contracts before their termination. And one was Breeze Line and one was Academy. Now, I can only say for the last 3 years or 2 years, I preached that we're not getting what we're supposed to. I'm all for it. But just to throw money at people at this time is not the right thing. If we went out, or the bid committee went out, or the transportation committee went out and got another bid, okay? First of all, it wouldn't happen right away. It took a year. Second of all, we don't have the ability to guess what's going to be tomorrow. Now, you always leave some cushion. However, last year, we didn't leave enough cushion. That's why every month we were short. We didn't die, but it wasn't a lot. But why? Because the insurance figure was way off. I see an item here that says 30% increase. in insurance.
Where,
It's on the line item. How do we know? I don't think it's right. Why? Because who are we saying was gonna go up 30%? And last year, Yugo's insurance was not covered by the major carrier because our track record was terrible. Has it changed that much that we're only gonna go up 30%? We all know that some associations went up 30, 50, 80%. My guess is associations can go up 100%.
They
But
have,
that's not the issue. The issue is what's budgeted for Yugo. So that is the guess or estimate from the insurance committee, which is headed up by Tony. Would I say that's right? No, I agree. I think that's wrong. You could do, I said this at another meeting, you could do without TV, but you can't do without insurance. So adding money to reserves without a real reason, in my opinion, is not the way to go.
security and transportation too.
You want to take a line item, I just think it's wrong. Let's go on.
Well, Ed, if 35% that's in your budget is not correct, what is your suggestion?
What, go up?
You just said that the 35% increase that was given to you by the insurance chair is not correct. What is your suggestion? 50, 60?
My suggestion is, if I could do better, I'd be not here, I'd be at the track every day. However, if you talk about raising it 20%, I would be talking about checking with other carriers. Are we overinsured? Are we underinsured? I don't doubt Tony, but she can only guess. Phil is in the business, okay? I got a call from a carrier, which we never heard of.
Ed, bring it up in
So bottom line is,
Insurance.
I wouldn't change it right now. I think it may be a.
Ed, this is the purview, what you're discussing is the purview of the insurance committee, this is a finance committee, we're here to talk about the budget.
Okay.
What's
This
your
is the
best
budget.
guess of what's in the budget? That's-
Okay, so if you want to make a recommendation to raise it to 60%, now's the time.
Raise, what line are you, what number are you
Yeah.
talking about?
The insurance expense.
What
No,
page,
Ed, let me-
what line?
Hey, put us on the line item, please.
Page 3, 8611.
Thank you.
Insurance is 7611,
Copy.
711.
When Tony goes out to the underwriters, and that's what they are, all these brokers, she goes out to the underwriters every year and she surveys what they're charging for the insurance.
Right.
So that 35% guess is probably pretty decent, because she's already checking all the other underwriters. There are a number of brokers, but there's only a finite number of underwriters that cover all these insurances. Yes, they've got 4 new ones this year, but she's going out to every one of them, because I had this conversation with her.
Our insurance agency said between 50 and 100%.
Wow.
For your association.
For, this is
You're
what, this is
talking about
what
Phil
Stedman
Maxley?
was told, and our associations were told the same thing.
Excuse me,
That's higher than I thought.
Fausto, are you talking about Phil Massey?
Yes,
Phil Massey says it's 50 to 100%.
and yeah, so this is to tell you, it's the sales pitch. 50 to 100, my God, when it comes to 60%, wow, he did a great job. He saved me 40%.
Well, I
The
recall that.
span is very good because he was very nice to hand out a sheet of paper that 12 or 13 companies have left Florida.
Right.
We know
So the
that.
pool is very small.
But 4 new ones came in.
Well, it's not just the pool. It is the way it's structured here. That
I know.
I'm just bringing, the only reason why I brought it up because
it's good.
Leave it at
you
35.
said that you did not believe that 35%. So my question to you as the chair of the finance committee, what is your recommendation? Do you
My-
leave it at 35 or do you make it 50? It was a simple question.
It is a simple question, and this is strictly being a bit more conservative, and conservatism in accounting is that which produces the smallest income. I wouldn't mind moving it to 60%. Increasing.
You want to put that in the form of a motion?
Yes,
Go for it.
It's his budget. He's got to change the number.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Which
yeah,
may,
we hear.
yeah, which may not be relevant totally, but I'm on the board of an association up in the Catskills, and we have insurance with Liberty Insurance. I also have some real estate in New Jersey and in Brooklyn, which I'm with Liberty. And I tried to get my own personal insurance for Wellington, and Liberty wouldn't give me any insurance. They said they no longer do anything in Florida. And in upstate New York, they raised the insurance rate about 35%. So I see all these insurance companies are really going crazy.
So what are you recommending, David?
I'm gonna recommend again. Because of
Yeah.
last year,
I don't know.
I hear you.
It's tough. You need insurance. You need
Fausto.
insurance. There's no question.
Fausto, I made the motion, is it seconded?
I don't know what you said.
I said
he wants to make it 60.
I would double it to 60%.
But Ed, it's
Double
not,
is
it's your
70.
budget.
It's your budget.
It's your budget. You don't need a motion. You're proposing, this is a proposed budget.
Wait.
If you made the statement that you're not happy with what's there, I'm saying it's up to you to change it. We don't need a motion. This is, you have to do this.
Hold it. You never do everything yourself, you reach out.
Yeah.
Tony's been here a long time. Do I trust him? Yes. Do I think it's overly conservative? Yes. So in answer to you, I could just say, I propose to move it to 60%. The reason we're having this meeting is I want the door to be open to everybody. So the door is open, I could cross it out and say, let's make it 60%. But I don't want to do that if it was something other than.
Let's have a second in the discussion.
And this is the meeting where you present your final version of the draft budget to your finance committee. Next step would be the officers committee. If you want to change this number, you're not going to be able to present you'll have.
The officers, you gotta do it ahead of time.
So
What am I using for documentation? What is Tony?
Well, Ed, and I don't mean this as a criticism. The time to have done that would have been sometime before this meeting.
Not true.
Okay.
Not true. I looked at it, I was challenged, and I said, what is this number compared to $8 million plus? Okay? So you can criticize it, that's fine. Nothing is perfect.
So what do you want to do today, Ed?
I'm making a motion to double it to, instead of 30%, 60%.
Is there?
What is that amount to?
You're not doubling it, you're increasing it to 60%. Anyone?
The issue here, it's not up to us, it's his budget. We vote on it once he presents a line for that amount. Am I right or wrong?
Ed, just change it.
No. Listen, I looked at this. It's just reviewed and I changed my mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
So just leave it the way it
Leave the way
is.
it is.
No, I don't want to leave it.
Then change.
I'm changing
Yeah,
it.
Ed, sorry. Yeah, a question. Ed, why do you feel like doubling? What reason? What caused you to make the suggestion of doubling it? Is there some underlying reason? What was
I
why
can
did
tell you
you,
that,
well, why do you think,
David. We couldn't get, that's Yuko.
yeah,
couldn't get the regular carrier last year because our record was so bad, they didn't want to write.
I have no idea about.
What,
We're not talking about your individual insurance or your association's insurance. You're
Right.
talking about Yugo's insurance, and our record was poor.
according to who?
So
What,
having said that, and it's brought up, my recommendation is.
according to who, Ed? And who said our record was poor?
Okay,
And I don't understand your comment at all.
What?
I don't understand your comment at all.
You don't?
No.
Said the
What,
record-
who said the record was poor and we lost our coverage or our carrier?
No, we did.
Who? Who?
Last year,
Who did we lose? What
This
did we
year.
lose?
we don't have the same carrier as the rest of the village.
We didn't lose them, we chose.
Ladies and gentlemen,
No idea.
that's my suggestion. I believe if I didn't think that you have input, why would I ask everybody anything? I just.
So you understand what I'm saying? It's up to him to.
I think we're going
He
to,
needs to revise his budget.
And so let's say, comment on the insurance companies. Yes, last year was very bad for all the insurance companies, not just Surfside down in Miami, but all over. They found a lot of homes were undervalued, weren't being upgraded. So that's why they started losing a lot of money. A lot of claims went in. That's why they started raising all these insurance claims, and now they're
I'm
using
looking
it.
at the
if you
line,
want it, raise it.
right?
Yeah, you.
Right.
But we're $4
We
off.
aimed-
Yeah.
Our budget was $4 wrong.
Ladies and
Leave
gentlemen,
it at 35.
what are we talking about?
I wish I
If you
knew.
include-
What are we talking? I wish I knew.
Estimated 35% per insurance committee.
Leave it.
I think they're overly cautious. You want to let it go. It's not a big number to me on $8 million.
I had two advice, talk with Tony, see where she based her on. And secondly, even if we doubled it, it would be only another 120,000. You just told me we have 12 million in pooled reserves. If it comes up that we need more than a 35, we can pull it from the pooled reserves.
You're absolutely right.
Okay, so let's go on.
Move on.
Fine, let's go on.
does anyone have any more specific questions about the budget? or
No,
line
I'm
item?
gonna stop because.
Yes.
Oh, David does.
David,
If I could finally get in.
Sorry, David.
David,
Line number
Yes,
seven,
yes.
six, three, seven.
David Boaz,
line,
Oh, wait,
What page are you on, buddy?
we're on page 3 of 5.
Okay, thank you.
my number is that.
Cultural events, line number 7637,
76.
got it,
37.
got it.
Yep,
And the line is social events,
Oh, wonderful, yes. What number is that?
that's 7637 on page 3 of 5. The 2023 budget was $4,500. The working budget for 2024 is same, correct?
Yes.
May I continue?
Okay, that's an interesting comment.
I didn't even make a comment.
Yeah, I'm just getting you on the right line.
No, I'm just wondering, let's talk about the amount of what happened last year.
What is?
Why don't we let
David,
David ask this question?
let David finish.
Ask your question, David.
Last year, I asked for either 6,000 or 6,500.
Correct,
It was cut down to 4,500.
correct.
This year, I sent you an email, and I know that you got it because when I send something to you in the email, I also send it to myself. I asked for $8,000 in the budget.
And it
Now,
went back.
This isn't high finance like the other two situations.
So,
Last
I
year,
think it's a fair and equitable amount of money.
what is your recommendation, David?
$8,000 as I emailed to you.
instead of the 45,
Right.
The 45 was
That's what I wanna know. Clear.
exceeded last year. We went around in a whole
Yeah.
circle last
We
year.
spent 70.
Cut last year, I asked for either 6,000 or 6,500 last year. We went over because it was reduced in the budget.
Right.
I voted against that, but that's beside the point.
We
This
did
year,
go
I'm
over
asking you to
last.
put in $8,000 to the social committee.
Well, if I recall the arguments last year about bringing it up and bringing it down, we're in a year of extreme increases in cost of living. We had the original number was in that 6,000. It was turned down entirely at the first meeting. And then at the second meeting, it was put back out and it did go to 4,500 and we spent well over 4,500.
I'm
So I'm
asking for
definitely in
8,000 this
agreement.
year.
All right, as far as I'm concerned, it is really if you didn't have another nickel, it's not important. Okay?
Okay, then just eliminate the line item.
I understand, and that's what
It all comes out of the same bank.
Right.
That's your suggestion, and that's why we're here. Make a motion and it'll be voted on.
I make a motion that line item number 7637, social events, be budgeted for the 2024 year to $8,000.
I'll second that motion.
I third it.
Call the vote.
And redo the budget.
Okay, any discussion? Okay,
Call the question.
David Boaz, need a motion seconded by Fausto, to increase the item 7637 social events to $8,000. Richard Handelsman,
Yes.
John Malloy,
Yes.
Americo,
Yes.
David Singer,
David,
Yes,
Michael Zaslow,
Yes.
Ed Grossman,
Yes,
Fausto,
Yes,
David,
Yes,
and I vote yes, it's unanimously adopted.
thank you.
Next.
Move on.
Does anyone else on the committee have any questions about specific line items in the budget? Draft budget.
I do. Said I wasn't gonna do it, but I gotta do
Do
one
it.
more.
go ahead.
Okay, on first, page number 2, item 7502. On the right-hand side, there's a comment. It says 4% increase per year and then comma minus rent. What is the minus rent?
The rent is the rent that we get for
Southampton.
the
5400 Fairway Street, correct?
we rent out the parking lot.
But what does that have, why does that come out of that line? I don't understand why we're subtracting it from there.
Ed, are you using the rent income from 5400 Fairway Street to offset the cable bill?
Not the cable. Oh,
That's what
I
this
don't
says.
understand this.
I don't know, it doesn't make any sense. Why are you subtracting the rent?
why?
I don't know.
Minus rent. Cable book. Okay, because we rent the parking lot,
We rent the building, Ed. We rent a building
right?
and we get an annual rental payment from them.
We get rent for the building.
So it sounds to me like the answer you should be giving Fausto is it's an account.
Commingling of funds, that's what I call it.
Well, it is,
One is an expense and one is an income.
right, but it sounds like he's aiming at using the rent from that building, which is the cable building, and we get it from the same company that we pay out to as an offset.
That's what it
No, it's
says.
that.
Does that make sense?
No.
I don't mean whether you like it or not, but does it?
Yeah, no.
It doesn't make any sense.
Let me.
Did I describe it correctly?
What's really important is how it's treated on our tax return. Because even though we're a non-profit, where you make a profit, non-for-profit corporations pay taxes. So really, the guiding light is the tax return. But what we're talking about is a small amount against our largest bill. So it could be shown as a separate line item. As far as I'm concerned, it is not that important on the biggest bill that we pay, which is getting close to $4 million. Yes, sir.
I was going to say you should put it on 7502. A little bit below that, but you already have minus rent. There are separate, you got minus rent twice. Are there two separate rental incomes?
Where
That's
is,
what I'm at. 7502 is 4 lines below.
no, that's Katie.
Richard, what you're doing is it sounds like 7,400 is landscape maintenance.
Yeah,
And it says per contract minus the rent. So I think what Ed is trying to do here is we rent Seacrest a piece of ground. And he wants to put that towards the landscaping maintenance. The problem with that, the problem I see with, the problem I see with that, Ed, is that the Seacrest that occupies that piece of ground doesn't work for you guys. We don't pay them anything. That's the residential division of Seacrest. Me personally, I think these minus rents are confusing and they could open up a can of worms we may not want to open. Their income, they go into the income line.
I agree.
Leave it at that.
I agree.
Income.
The 2 minus rents
Yes.
should go into income, specify.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, all this is a comment.
Excuse me, when you look at the monthly statement, it is separated. I didn't bring one with me, but the monthly statement separates the rent and the other as income.
All right, so I'm gonna make a suggestion, Ed.
Go ahead.
That's all it is. In the interest of keeping things as simple and least confusing as possible, can someone just make a motion that the minus rent notations just be removed from the note section?
Excuse me,
Just black out the minus rents. That's my suggestion.
you're saying leave it there, but don't give an explanation.
No, we're saying.
How do you want to clear that out?
I think having this minus rent notation in your budget is gonna possibly can cause confusion in the future and in audit.
Are you suggesting
Get rid of
take
it.
off the explanation?
Yes.
Take off the explanation. I think that
Right.
this might be a red flag in your audit. Right off the bat, I caught a problem. You said minus rent because it's Seacrest. The company that occupies that ground that pays you that rent isn't the company that works for UCO. It's 2 different companies. I think you should just remove the notation.
My-
What do you think?
I think it's a wonderful thing to.
Rely on you more often.
But how do you justify those payments? We're putting that money in the bank, we're getting a check. How did
Hold
that?
on.
Income.
What
When
is
you
it?
say justify, you're getting to tax return.
That's what I'm concerned
Okay,
with.
so I think it's simple enough. If you think this is confusing,
I'm confused.
what I would do is not leave it and just put it as a separate line item.
That's what we're suggesting.
And then you have a clear
John, you
picture. that you're
Yes, I
not-
do. I have-
trying to do the.
So my suggestion is, and I don't think we need to vote on it here. My suggestion is we'll remove it from there and put it in as a separate line item.
Yeah.
I believe in having
Because the
The most-
residential part
open,
of Seacrest.
so I think that's a good idea.
The part they're leasing.
Yeah.
Again,
About that.
that's why we're here.
All right, let's move on. to the
Does
next.
anybody have any other suggestions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, You should, in the budget, the budget should be grossed up. Because otherwise what happens is that you start netting stuff, you don't know what the hell the netting is all about. And that's wrong. In terms of budgeting, you should gross your budget. Revenue and expenses separately.
And the total revenue balance.
Right,
Yeah, kind of what we just.
that's what I was
was
just talking
Yeah,
about.
that's it.
What I just said.
Exactly.
I look at
I
it
left my CPA degree at home.
on $8 million, if you're talking $2,000 or whatever. But it's easy enough, we're gonna move it out and show it separately. Any other comments? I have one comment. And I left it open. And at this point, I think maybe I just won't say it. But what we just did, the top line is gonna be pennies. In other words, if you went from $4,000 to $8,000 and the increase is $5 and change, I'm not gonna do the math in my head, but it's gonna be pennies. And the key here is our budgets are only done once a year. I've worked this out before. The correct way is to redo your budgets every quarter. But having said that, we haven't been too far off. And also having said that, I'd like to know if anybody has anything else to say, because I have to go for a cat.
All right, I have one thing to add to this that I've been going on for a while about. We're hearing all this money that we're spending on the canal, now the air conditioning and everything. And you know, I bring this up for the last couple of years on the CDs. That was over $700,000 we didn't get in earned income because we didn't invest back then. At the last assembly meeting, it was stated that CDs are a speculative investment. They're not, they're a fixed income. They're not speculative at all. I still think with all this money, because I'm looking at some of the budget here, how much money did we actually earn on that $12 million that we have sitting in the account?
I think it was $500.
$500. I see it on here on the audit report too. We could be getting on the 5 million, we could be getting over $300,000 a year. Guaranteed, we're backed up by the FDIC insurance and by Merrill Lynch is coming behind us for that. So I still think it's a good investment. It's been very safe.
I do, I think so also, as you know, but I don't think this is the place.
You said I had to bring up something else, and since we're spending all this money on, and we're gonna be spending more money on the other canal coming up soon, and we have the air conditioning, 550,000, you said?
That's already done.
That's already, that's in the
But
WRF,
that's money that's coming out of our funds all the time.
That's not, that's gone.
Okay, that's okay.
Let's,
But I wanna start bringing some money back into.
everybody has an opinion, in my opinion, while we lost the possibility of earning several $100,000.
Right.
We will pursue it further. And just to put it in perspective, you know, on that email I sent out, I said, what do you think about the deal with Polka?
Right.
And my personal opinion is we blew $2.5 to $3 million because they wouldn't go forward without us. And to change, and I don't know, it is a business decision.
Not now.
And all of a sudden, after 12 years and 5,000 postcards and votes, in 2 weeks, everybody changed their mind. So if you're talking about not having income, nothing can top that. Where would they go? But having said that, that's over. Over.
That's why we're talking about it.
So, yeah, so
I move we
delegates voted, the
adjourn.
delegates have spoken.
I move we adjourn.
Why are we here? We're
He's
here.
taking the motion.
Before you guys run out of here, did anyone vote on this draft budget before we leave?
I wouldn't recommend voting on it until the proper changes are made and the committee can review it.
All right, fair enough.
Not what
Wait,
being
Because
submitted.
what's being presented is not what this committee approved.
Wait, we'll make the changes,
Make the changes, then you can vote.
but I don't think we'll be able to change everything by tomorrow.
This is my
But
concern.
I suggest we vote on it, basis the changes.
Nope.
Nope.
I want to see it in black and white. I don't recommend anybody vote on something that has not been changed. I will not put my name on it, and I wouldn't recommend anybody else would either.
That's your opinion.
That's my opinion, yes.
Okay. If David votes,
What I'm hearing, is this gonna be the only meeting?
That sounds
We used to
like.
have three meetings.
excuse me,
Is this gonna be the only meeting of the budget?
I can't hear.
Is this it, Ed?
Hearing aid
The
in.
only meeting for the budget. Typically you have three or four meetings. Is this going to be the only one?
Next
Well,
month.
you can't go by typically.
I'm-
That's
Don't you passenger.
it.
Next month.
It's worked. And if you look at the David's blog and see how many people watch a finance meeting or come to it, and I could only tell you, the email which I sent out, approximately 170 people opened it, read it. Out of 170 people, only 40 people opened up to see the budget.
Sorry, but that's not what he's asking.
I understand what he said. You could beat it to death for 100 years. It's a budget that has changed
Forget it.
to a line item budget. So if, whenever it gets to the delegate assembly, it may not be approved. So this is, I think, a conservative first step. In years past, if you didn't vote for one thing, we had to vote over and over.
When's the next
So I
meeting?
hear him, but that's what's worked for the last 4 years.
So we'll meet in October next month on the revision. As a-
You can call for a special meeting.
You wanna get too fussed out.
The changes that were made to this budget.
Mm.
You don't have to wait. You could do it next week.
Right.
You could do it Sunday. You could do whatever day.
Not me.
It's just your
Yeah.
committee. You just make the changes so that your committee can vote on it, Ed.
October is
No
late.
problem.
Coupon.
I understand that. I know.
No problem. When the changes were made, I think
Send out
you
an
normally
email.
have to give 48 hours. We'll do that.
All right.
Have to go in, change it. It's not a matter of crossing out and stuff
I
like
gotta go for pizza.
that. So that being the case,
I second the
We will
motion,
change.
we're adjourned.
And Ed, Chris will be here tomorrow, so he'll be able to help you, all right?
excuse me,
Chris will be here tomorrow, so he can help you.
I can't hear you.
Christopher will be here tomorrow. He can help you with the changes.
Who's that? Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I want to thank you all for coming. Be well.
We're adjourned.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
What we need, I'm gonna tell,
Hello.
I can't do it.
No, I can do it.
Yes, oh, I'm sorry, yes.
You're adjourned.
Jerry, 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 off.
I can-
Donald.